أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'm really happy to have with me Brother Ali Manji, another amazing reciter from our community, and someone who really holds Quran, the Holy Quran, dear to him. And it'd be nice to go through his journey and see what it is about the Holy Quran that he holds dearly, and how he managed to create this relationship throughout his life. So, Ali, thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for for spending some time sharing your story with us. Yeah, I think let me start off with the obvious question, and I've asked everyone else this. Where did it all start for you with the Holy Quran?
Well, I have to say, alhamdulillah, I've been blessed with some incredible teachers, and of course parents who really drove us to sit with these teachers and enjoy the Quran.
Yeah.
And I think the reason it's been such a big thing is because the first couple of teachers we had taught us to enjoy the Quran. It's not just something to learn; it's something to enjoy the time around. And so there's some teachers which everyone watching will know. So Amina Auntie Rahim, who taught many of my generation and the generations above and below, was really the one who started us with the letters and the pronunciation and just getting into that very initial fluency. But cementing, constant recitation and that drive to learn was an amazing teacher we had by the name of Sister Najaha, who moved from Baghdad, and we were lucky enough to know her as family friends. And my memories of her are not memories of reciting Quran, but memories of going to her house at 7 or 8 and being greeted with plates of food and very welcome, and the Quran came with that. And so as odd as it may seem, we associated Quran with good times, and that
Good
homemade
food, right?
exactly, good food, good nice conversation, a friendly face. And so when you're too young to really look at the words and take them in, or take it seriously, then to have an association with something really positive is probably quite a nice way to make people enjoy the Quran, which is what I found anyway.
Oh, that's really amazing, because it wasn't your traditionalist sort of Quran teacher where you'd be scared to come, and then okay, you read whatever they tell you to read, and then if you make a mistake, you're told off and all that. So it was far from it.
No, I mean, of course, she was a disciplined teacher, and alhamdulillah, we're all the better for it. But the wanting to not make a mistake was not a scary process. It was maybe a bit at times a bit intimidating, but because of the warmth of the welcome, because of the treats on the side, because of the general happy atmosphere, wasn't something that we ever looked.
That's nice. Yeah, tell me a bit more about this teacher. So what was it? So okay, she'd give you a nice warm welcome, and you'd associate it with the good food and stuff. So what was it about this particular teacher that really made your relationship with the Quran a more happier relationship?
So a bit of background on this lady. She fled from Baghdad under the sort of rule of Saddam. So she fled from him. She was quite an important figure. From what I've heard from my parents who knew her personally quite well, she was a student of the wife of Sayyid Bakr Sadr.
Oh, wow.
Which, if true, is incredible, and it explains a lot. But she was in love with the Quran in a way that I've never seen someone. And when you're young and you're very impressionable, that really comes across. And so everything would be about making it a nice atmosphere. And it's more the body language and the fact that someone enjoys it so much. It's not just I've taught Quran before, and I teach, this is the vowels, these are the letters, this is how you recite, and I enjoy it. But there's a level to which she very subconsciously enjoyed it that I think when everywhere is very contagious. So I think that was very important.
That sounds very good. So what was it that she would be teaching you particularly? Was it just introductory Quran, or was it?
At this point, we had a sort of basic grasp of the fluency. We could recite without too much hesitation. So this was about almost perfecting the fluency, as it were. And then with more common things such as Surah Yasin, we were encouraged to memorize those. And she'd order these little trophies, the kind of trophies you'd get at a sports tournament or a madrasa or something like that. She'd order those if you memorized a Yasin, or if you recited this one thing without mistake. So it was a nice little way to just make you listen to it with some incentive.
She was taking initiative to really incentivize you as
Definitely. So I've chosen a page from Surah Al-Baqarah, which is ayah 58 to 61.
Okay.
Its vague background is a story of the people of Nabi Musa rejecting bounties of Allah and then being punished for it.
Mm-hmm.
But from a voice and tune perspective, this ayah ends with this page ends with a really long ayah, which I used to use personally as a little breath holding test, because one of the skills of a reciter is a long breath, and I've always found that to be a difficult one to master. So I'd always use this as a little test of it, to see how far I could get through, and usually the answer was not very far. But it's a nice one to try and do. There's a few long ayah in there.
Okay, let's go. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ قلنا ادخلوا هذه القرية فكلوا منها حيث شئتم رغدا وادخلوا الباب سجدا وقولوا حطة نغفر لكم خطاياكم وسنزيد المحسنين. فبدل الذين ظلموا قولا غير الذي قيل لهم فأنزلنا على الذين ظلموا رجزا من السماء بما كانوا يفسقون. وإذ استسقى موسى لقومه فقلنا اضرب بعصاك الحجر فانفجرت منه 12 عينا قد علم كل أناس مشربهم كلوا واشربوا من رزق الله ولا تعثوا في الأرض مفسدين. وإذ قلتم يا موسى لن نصبر على طعام واحد فادع لنا ربك يخرج لنا مما تنبت الأرض من بقلها وقثائها وفومها وعدسها وبصلها قال أتستبدلون الذي هو أدنى بالذي هو خير اهبطوا مصرا فإن لكم ما سألتم وضربت عليهم الذلة والمسكنة وباءوا بغضب من الله ذلك بأنهم كانوا يكفرون بآيات الله ويقتلون النبيين بغير الحق ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Ahsan. That was so beautiful, mashallah. I was just entranced by the recitation and the whole journey of how you recited this passage. So thank you so much. That was really, really beautiful.
Thank you.
Carrying on with the breath and how long you can. Your breath is still long. It's much longer than mine. My breath is very shallow. In fact, whenever I recite in front of this particular person, he always says, Allahu yamuddu nafasak. May Allah lengthen your breath, because I struggle a lot. So that was really, really beautiful. Would you mind explaining a few tips on how to prolong your breath, or how you've managed to have such a long breath?
From what I've read and seen and learned from Al-Rahimi, the important thing is, some people, when they're reading a passage, one of the things is, and I know it sounds so obvious, but to actually take a deep breath before you start the ayah is more difficult than people think, especially when you're mid-reciting. Your eyes on the next ayah, you're in the flow, you just go straight on. And this wasn't Tahqiq Quran, but in Tahqiq Quran, I'm sure you're familiar with it, that, reciters will often wait 10, 15, 20 seconds before they start the next bit. And sometimes what that is just getting deep breaths in and out and preparing their breath. And in the version of reciting, which I demonstrated right now, even between the ayah, I was still taking 1 or 2 seconds. It wasn't, the fullest breath I could get, but I still stop, take that breath, and carry on, which a lot of people forget. And then when you're actually taking the breath, as paradoxical as it seems, the phrase they use is you breathe into the gut, which obviously from a medical point of view doesn't make sense. But when you're breathing to take a deep breath, it's actually the stomach and the abdomen that you see coming out. That means you're taking a really deep breath, as opposed to just concentrating in the chest. So if I were to put a hand on my chest and a hand down there and I took a deep breath, I'd actually see my tummy coming out a little bit more than my chest. And then you hold it in, and that, if you practice that breathing against either reciting or against just, whistling or something where you've got a slightly closed mouth, you're forcing the air out, that's a really good way to just improve your
so the breath is longer if you breathe from the gut, so to speak. Interesting. And I remember he used to say, breathe in and then cap it. How does that work? How do you control your breath when you're reciting?
So I think one of the principles Al-Rahimi told me is, if you overbreathe, so you have to find a balance between the maximal breath that's good for you and trying to take such a deep breath in that you're actually straining some of your muscles.
Yeah.
And sometimes that lets a bit air out forcefully. Sometimes that just makes you feel a bit tired. And then another thing is, a lot of people shout when they recite. And by that, I mean they're very powerful in their voice without that sort of control over it. And one of Al-Rahimi's amazing things about his mic system was that he used it to demonstrate something he called quiet shouting, which we always, laughed at and found funny, but then he demonstrated it. And when you were right next to him, you'd hear his voice really, really loud, very powerfully. And you take a couple of steps back, and all of a sudden it's not, impossible to hear, but it's very quiet. It's not what you expect from someone who seems to be shouting. And that's a sort of breath conservation technique that he has developed from seeing other people, that he tried to pass on to us as well.
Interesting. That's very, very interesting. Hassan, no, this has been a very eye-opening conversation for me, and hopefully it's been an equally eye-opening conversation for all of us. So thank you so much, Ali, for your time, for just sharing your expertise and how you balance Quran and your busy schedule, especially for university and work now. So it's really been informative and inspirational, and thank you so much once again for your recitation. Always look forward to it.
Thank you very much for having me, and amazing initiative. Inshallah, it carries on.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.